An AirDrop vulnerability remains unpatched, Signal makes an epic clapback at Cellebrite, and Emotet begins a mass deletion of itself. All that coming up now on ThreatWire. Greetings, I am Shannon Morse and this is ThreatWire for April 27, 2021. This is your weekly summary of the threats to your security, privacy, and internet freedom. I have some big news to share. Stay tuned to story number 3 to hear all about it, but we have a bunch of hacks and data leaks in the news this week, so let's get right into it. On to the first story. Given that iOS 14.5 dropped yesterday for Apple devices, let's talk a little bit about AirDrop. Researchers at Germany's Technical University of Darmstadt found vulnerabilities in AirDrop back in 2019 that could allow the feature to leak your phone number and potentially your email address as well to anyone within the vicinity. The problem has not been fixed as of yesterday's new OS release. So AirDrop is a feature in iOS and macOS devices that lets users create a direct connection with other devices and basically beam files to one another using Wi-Fi and BLE. You have the option in your settings to set this to only contacts, allow anyone to connect, or no one whatsoever. When establishing a connection, AirDrop broadcasts Bluetooth packets with a partially cryptographic hash of the phone number and email address. Devices will handshake if the hash also matches up with a contact in the receiver's address book, or if the user has their AirDrop settings set to allow anyone to connect. They set up a SHA-256 hash once connected with the contact details. The researchers presented a paper on this topic in August at the Usenix Security Symposium, as well as 2 exploits. An attacker could monitor for broadcasted discovery requests. When they see a hash being broadcasted, just wait for the share menu to be opened up by a receiving party. And their second exploit happens when the attacker opens the share menu and they wait for nearby devices to respond with hashed contact info. That would only work if the attacker was in the receiver's address book already. That would be much more targeted, used for folks whose phone numbers are well known. The exploits could also be done using a Wi-Fi man-in-the-middle attack. I know of one. I think everybody watching this show does, such as setting up a device where there's a public hotspot or in a conference room. That could be a potential vulnerable vector as well. Unfortunately, this problem has not been fixed. The researchers notified Apple in May of 2019 and even offered up a new version of AirDrop, which they called Private Drop, which could allow the sender and the receiver to do the contact discovery process without disclosing any vulnerable hashes. And it is open source and it is on GitHub. Now, since this only happens while AirDrop is enabled and requires local exploitation from an attacker within the vicinity, you are likely safe to use AirDrop while in a safe environment with your friends and family. But if you want to share files while on public Wi-Fi, or at a conference, or an airport, or a mall, you may want to choose a different approach, especially if you are worried that somebody could figure out your phone number, which could potentially lead to SIM swapping as well. Simply set AirDrop to no one and choose not to open the sharing menu. Props to Sitwan on my ThreatWire Patreon Discord for sending this story over my way. So y'all have heard of Cellebrite. I think we all have. We reported on this company here on ThreatWire in the past, a long time ago. To refresh your memory though, Cellebrite is this Israeli company that helps governments and police all over the world hack into confiscated mobile devices by exploiting vulnerabilities. Now, they've been known to work with authoritarian regimes, and recently the company halted sales to Russia and Belarus. Cellebrite was also suspected to be the company who broke into the San Bernardino shooter's phone. It was actually a company called Azimuth. Now, a few months ago, Cellebrite announced that they would parse data from Signal with the extraction tool, which is called the Cellebrite Physical Analyzer. And last week, Moxie Marlinspike, the creator of Signal, published a report explaining that he uncovered vulnerabilities in Cellebrite's software. So this seems to be a very mess with the best, die like the rest moment. So Cellebrite requires a device in hand to break into it in the first place. They use this first piece of software, which is called UFED, to create a backup of your device on their Windows machine, and the second part, the physical analyzer, parses files and data into a browsable format for investigations. The physical analyzer can display signal data from an unlocked device. Marlinspike stated that he was just walking along one day and a Cellebrite package fell off a truck ahead of him. And packaged inside was all the fun products he would need to reverse engineer it. One example given is FFmpeg DLLs from 2012 are bundled within the Cellebrite software, and these have had over 100 security updates since that time. The Signal team also found they could execute arbitrary code on a Cellebrite machine by including a specially formatted file on any application on any device that is plugged into the company's machine. That file could execute code on the Cellebrite machine that modifies reports created for scanned devices with no changes to checksums or timestamps, which means the data integrity for Cellebrite reports would be called into question. Marlinspike went on to explain that Signal is more than willing to responsibly disclose the details of these vulnerabilities to Cellebrite if they also do the same for all the vulnerabilities they use for their physical extraction techniques and any other services they use. A video showing the demo of this exploitation is included in the blog post published by Signal. So the Signal post also includes details about 2 MSI installer packages included in the Cellebrite software that are digitally signed by Apple and appear to be extracted from iTunes for Windows used to interact with iOS devices. Apple likely has not granted Cellebrite permission to use their Apple DLLs in the analyzer. Lastly, an update is coming to Signal that will include some aesthetically pleasing and routinely updated files that don't do anything inside of Signal, nor do they interact with the Signal software. They're just there for no reason. Interesting. The post does not include any technical details, and neither Apple nor Cellebrite have responded to outlets about questions. We also don't know any further details about the upcoming changes to Signal, nor when that would take effect. I want to give a big shout out to my Hush Puppy Perk level patrons for sharing their fur baby photos and for the support. Thank you. And a quick shout out to Don F, Elizabeth S, Nikki D, Steve D, and Aaron L for joining the ThreatWire Alliance, and as always for supporting the show. Also, big news, thanks to the ThreatWire Alliance Patreon, I will be starting an audio podcast to coincide with ThreatWire. I've wanted to do this for so long, so I am so excited about it. The timing of hitting this goal is also perfect because construction is currently going on my studio, and I am planning to introduce this new podcast when I moved into the new studio, so it'll probably be a month out or so, give or take. Just give me some time to get everything together. Also, Patreon exclusive merch has just been unlocked, so that means that current patrons as well as new folks will now have access to physical merchandise on an ongoing basis, and I cannot wait to start introducing exclusive designs just for my ThreatWire Alliance. It's going to be so much fun creating new merch. Now's a good time to join if you have not already, because you will automatically have access to those perks. So check out the Patreon page for more details, and onto the third news story. So Emotet, or Emotet, is a long-running email spam botnet that was used to not only push spam, but also to spread ransomware such as Ryuk and Conti to computers across the globe. It has been run by the Mummy Spider threat group, aka TA542, to spread QBot and TrickBot malware in second-stage malware payloads. But as of the 25th of May, any infected devices that had Emotet on their machines are being uninfected thanks to a malware module delivered by law enforcement back in January. Now, this was made possible when law enforcement took control of the Emotet servers back in January, which allowed them to disrupt malware delivery. Emotet infected 1.6 million computers before the April 25th update. So basically, law enforcement distributed a new configuration config to the infected machines using the command and control servers. This is a 32-bit Emotet loader.dll, which would uninstall Emotet from the infected machines on April 25th. Third-party security researchers checked out the uninstaller and verified that it only deletes the Windows services and auto-run registry keys that are associated with Emotet before exiting. It does not affect any other malware that may be on the infected machines, and it doesn't do anything else to the infected machines. It's important to note that this is another example of law enforcement obtaining access remotely to private machines. This is the second time this has happened this year. While it appears to be legitimate, this should not be normal policy. This episode of ThreatWire is in memory of Dan Kaminsky, who not only was a good friend of Hack5 since Hack5 was in its very early days, but was also very accepting and kind to me personally when I was brand new to the industry. We're gonna miss you so much, Dan. I'm Shannon Morse, and I will see you on the internet.